Hi, I'm Cara, culture editor at Ganjapreneur and host of The Fresh Cut, the YouTube show where we get straight to the source and interview people within the cannabis industry. In this episode, we interview Lo Friesen, CEO of Seattle-based extract company Heylo. She's a chemist. She helped develop one of the first CO2 extract machines that her company ran on. And now they create intentional, beautiful mixtures and single origin oils. Let's learn more about what Lo does and the team that she does it with in this episode of The Fresh Cut. Welcome, Lo.
Hey, Cara. Thanks for having me.
I am always excited to interview you. I've featured you a couple of times, so I want to ask an old classic question first and learn a little bit more about how you entered the cannabis space. What made you choose cannabis after getting your chemistry degree?
Well, I was actually pursuing a career in medicine, and I was working in a hospital for a few years before the cannabis path kind of showed itself to me. Actually, interestingly enough, my parents were the ones who encouraged me to get into the space. And it really came down to the fact that on multiple different levels, cannabis was showing up in my life. So first and foremost, I much prefer cannabis over alcohol. So I found myself using cannabis socially in college, and then after college, of course, but also to help me with my anxiety and seasonal affective disorder, which going to school in Chicago, there was a whole lot of that. So on top of that, seeing multiple states go medical and recreational at the time, this is in the 2013, 2014 timeframe, my family was having conversations about how cannabis could impact the opioid crisis, which coming from the Midwest, the epidemic there is horrible. And it's still bad, but it's getting better with access to different resources. And so having multiple levels of medical professionals be talking to me about cannabis and how it could impact people's lives, it was a no-brainer for me when my parents were like, have you thought about this as an industry? It's absolutely going to be available everywhere someday. And, why not get in now, especially with my background? And I it was like a light bulb moment where I decided to just kind of dip my toe into things. And so I went to, I think it was CannaCon or MJ BizCon in Chicago, because it was, in my neck of the woods. And was really looking into extraction because with my chemistry degree, I actually fell in love with the science behind botanical extraction after looking into it and realized how much unknown there was with respect to cannabis extraction. And so in Chicago, I met a number of extraction manufacturers and really connected with Eden Labs and encouraged us to stay connected. And so I moved out to Seattle, booked a one-way ticket, grabbed a suitcase, and just winged it out here. And I was really fortunate that Eden Labs ended up offering me a job. So I got into the cannabis industry through many different ways, but ultimately it came down to working for the CO2 extraction manufacturing company. And it helped me understand botanical extraction as a whole, and then really understand cannabis extraction on a deeper level.
And I think that lends a lot to the fact that you've always had very chemistry-focused products. And that surely comes from your experience with with the CO2 extract machines. And so I really want to dive right into understanding how you approach rare cannabinoid and terpene profile strain specific or blend products. So we'll start with, you've always prioritized terpene content since far before the LinkedIn conversations about terpenes over indica sativa. And I want to know why that's always been important and why it will continue to be important at Heylo.
Well, Heylo's mission is to help anyone get more out of life, and we do that with our cannabis products. And as a consumer entering the Washington market, when I first moved out here, I really didn't get a whole lot out of my vape experience. And I really do believe in the power of vapes and the future of the vape market, especially with respect to cannabis, because of many reasons. But I personally love vapes, and there were so many people, including myself, saying, why don't vapes give me the same experience as smoking flower? And I discovered that most extractors focus on THC. That seems to be like the currency that people use for evaluating products. But if we want an experience that's similar to smoking flower, we need to be using product that's like flower, and we need to be, respecting the plant's chemical profile. And so the chemist in me, total nerd, just dove into what makes up cannabis flower in terms of its chemistry. And so when we founded Heylo, our mission to help people get more out of life was paired with a goal of creating an extract that's as close to the plant as possible, because that's the only way we were going to recreate that experience. And so from the get-go, we realized that, it's not just THC or even, CBD thrown into the mix that impacts your experience. It also ties into terpenes. So those flavor compounds that come from the cannabis plant that can kind of steer your high. And once I discovered that, it was like a whole world opened to me. And even now, this is like 4 years later, we're still learning about other compounds that can impact your experience. For example, those rare cannabinoids and like CBG or THCV, and now flavonoids and aldehydes and different compounds that we may not be testing for or may not even exist in high concentrations, but our bodies are pretty sensitive. So, just like you don't necessarily need, flower that's 30% THC to really get a good high. Some of the best experiences come from lower potency flower and comes back to like the richness of the product, including terpenes. So just the chemistry nerd in myself has always been asking the why questions. That's why I love chemistry. And we'll just continue to push towards learning the most that we can about the flowers so we can make sure that our extracts mimic and respect that chemical profile.
And that chemical profile starts with the good flower. And that's such a networking thing. You are a chemistry nerd, and your products really show that you understand what's going on with the chemistry of extraction. How do you find the perfect partners to get you a base product? What do you look for in a farm and in a flower when you're looking to start a new product? Or gain sorry to cut you off, like a regular stream of flower coming in as well is complicated.
It is. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because Heylo does not cultivate our own product, which we look at as a strength, because we're able to work with so many different cultivators, and we are able to focus on what we do best and what we love. And cultivators are able to focus on what they love and do best. And I can grow a house plant, but growing cannabis on a commercial scale is really difficult, especially under the elements of the environment. And we mostly source from outdoor growers because of the volume that they're able to produce. Also, the cannabis plant, is meant to be grown under the sun. And so it is able to express its full genetics under the sun and exposed to the environment. And so that's when we get our richest cannabis profiles, like the cannabinoid content and the terpene profiles, because the plant is responding to the environment and expressing its genetics to the fullest. So first, we work with cultivators. You mentioned networking. A lot of times it does have to do with networking, like whether it's going to a store and asking a bud tender, who are your favorites right now, or going to industry events and meeting cultivators that we align with in terms of our values. So sustainability is important. Cultivating plants cleanly. So not using pesticides, growing with organic methods, respecting the plant and, letting it do its thing, giving it space to do that. And then also destigmatizing the plant. And so by cultivating interesting genetics and shedding light on cannabis cultivation as like an actual agriculture industry is important to us. And, we really want to, foster those relationships so we can create sustainable relationships and sustainable business practices. And then lastly is the unique chemistry. It started, we didn't know exactly what to look for, but it started with talking to cultivators and saying, which ones are your favorites or which ones are the most unique. And it came down to like cultivators trying the product. And that's how, pheno hunting works and how growers decide which strains to grow. But what we discovered was you can actually test the flower and know what's in there. So we can say, oh, this one does have high THCV or high CBC, for example. And so those are all part of like our values in sourcing. And then Heylo only uses flower in our products. And so again, coming back to creating an extract that's as close to the plant as possible and trying to make sure that you're going to get a similar experience to smoking flower with our vapes. And that starts with using product that you would want to smoke. And so high quality flower is important, and making sure that the cultivator can supply us a sufficient quantity for that, because we do need somewhere in the range of 20 to 40 pounds to extract. And
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you end up having to, so do you bulk buy like as much outdoor grown as you can about this time of year and flash freeze or something? Or do you sometimes have to supplement by the end of that outdoor season with some indoor grown? What happens in that regard?
So yeah, you're right. We're in Croptober right now. And so there's tons of material available, both actually from last year, as well as, stuff that's coming down right now. And we try to develop relationships so that we can pace ourselves and not have to purchase, thousands of pounds or commit to any particular thing, because we don't know, how the quality is going to turn out. And we have a pretty rigorous vetting program. And so we have our cultivators sign like a whole disclosure document. And when we're first working with them, they do it, and we buy like a test batch and we'll run it through our machine and do all the quality assurance testing and send it out to a lab and get pesticides and heavy metals and things like that tested. And then we actually do that every year as well. So on the get-go and then every year. And that's because people, change their growing methods at times. And so we want to make sure we're staying up to date with that. So it is a pretty rigorous process. And so we want to make sure that we're pacing ourselves throughout the year and not necessarily purchasing all at once. And that usually the cultivators have a really great way of storing the product. And so we have them store, or we'll commit to some quantity, but we'll have them store it for us. But it is dried and cured flower that we're purchasing for Heylo.
Cool. I really am excited to jump into the juicy stuff about rare cannabinoids and pick your brain about creating those products. And I like to imagine that you are like in the lab with some cool like lab coat on, and you get the results back on a new flower that you got in, and you're like, THCV, like it's some like really romanticized version of science that I as a writer have created. So there's a couple of really cool products, and I'm sure there's more than I'm going to list, but we've got the CV Jesus, we've got the new workout plan, which has Delta 10 long before it was the wave of the cool new cannabinoids, and Spring Equinox, which has THCV. Do you seek out cultivars specifically for cannabinoids you might know about, or do you just get really great flower that a cultivator is like, this one seems special, and then you test it and you find something really cool? I remember going to a barbecue and texting you immediately about some Where's My Bike that I saw like one in the corner of a grill. So yeah, I'd love to hear about that process, because it seems like its own type of pheno hunting.
It is. And it's been really fun over the years for Heylo to be, fostering that reputation of these rare cannabinoids. And so, yes, we've kind of always been searching for that. And the coolest thing is when somebody sends us info on, a strain that they tried and they saw that it had THCV in it or something. And then they're like, you should extract this. And then we make a whole new connection with the cultivator. And so those are really magical moments. But we do test the flower as it comes in. And oftentimes either we will know or the cultivator knows that it has this particular cannabinoid in it or it is special. For example, blueberry, it often has higher concentrations of CBC in it. And so
Cannabidochrome?
Yep.
Cool.
Nailed it.
Still got those, That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I love blueberry.
Me too. And it just makes you feel like so physically good and kind of like the cannabis is hugging you. That's what
I was thinking a warm blanket.
Yeah. And so we sold out of blueberry and so did the cultivator like a year ago.
I know that, love.
Yeah. a lot of people like kind of forgot about it, and we started working with a new cultivator and they had blueberry, and so we just extracted it. And I mean, when they brought it in, it smelled so good and I was like, I missed you.
Oh, it really does unlock memories, getting a specific strain in your nose.
Yeah. And especially when it is it's getting ground, because we ground the flower before we extract it. And so the air just fills with it. But this blueberry batch, I was like, fingers crossed, because I don't know if it's the same genetics since it's a different grower, but it did come back with about 1.3% CBC, which is, like you said, cannabichromine. And
I did not say that. Bless you for telling me I was right. But yeah.
I didn't know if you dropped the end somehow, but yeah, cannabichromine. And so anyway, I know just historically that blueberry has CBC. And so I was hoping that this cultivar also had it. And so it does 1.3%. Nice. But yeah, so we will, like, CBJesus and the CBG blend are actually, well, it started with, you mentioned it, Where's My Bike, which had actually both CBG and THCV at one point, but we couldn't source that cultivar anymore. And so we had to transition and kind of like hodgepodge it a little bit, which takes a lot of R&D. And we've actually ended up, for consistency's sake, sourcing from hemp, which, is could be controversial, but we work with a really awesome cultivator out of Oregon, who is just like so incredibly aligned with our values. We are so grateful to be partnered with them. Their name is East Fork Cultivars, and they grow this fabulous high CBG chemovar that we source the same way we would a Heylo flower, and then we extract it and formulate it, and it's all just to create consistency for the product. So both CBG blend and CBJesus have those in there for those ratios, which CBG blend is our flagship CBG strain, and it's a 3-to-1 THC to CBG ratio. And as more and more people have fallen in love with CBG, we decided to come out with CBJesus, which is a 3-to-1 CBG to THC ratio.
Nice.
And so it's been really awesome to hear people's feedback on it. And so back to your question, we do seek out specific cultivars that may be known for these unique cannabinoids. But we may also create our own blends to find new ratios. And that's where the new workout plan comes into play, which, have you tried it?
I think it's a more like uplifting, right? Full disclosure, very pregnant for the last like 10 months, but I haven't gotten a vape cartridge in a while. But I tend to get vapes that are like, I'm a blueberry gal. Your grape ape is really good, but I also like the CBG blend. I guess that was a very long walk to say, no, I have not tried it.
It's
But
fine. I totally knew your timeline over the past year, and I was like, not sure if you had tried it before. But the new workout plan is like taking shots of espresso.
I love that.
Yeah. So the opposite of blueberry, but people have coined it as like a sativa lover's sativa. I mean, it is so energizing, but super focusing at the same time.
You know what that actually really organically brings me to is I knew, because I live in Bellingham, Lo lives in Seattle. These are far apart from each other in terms of like, I can't walk over to Lo's house. So I go to my dispensary here and I always ask for Heylo. And I know which products I like because there are a lot of indicators on the packaging that Lo and the team have spent like a lot of time figuring out how they can help people get the right products. So I always use the bottom indicator, which is like a little spectrum from uplifting to relaxing. And then on the side, you'll get the terpenes. The name of the company is blanking, but I believe you also partner with like a company where you put a lot of really cool stuff on the side. So like that's something that's important as well, and plays really well to the mission of honoring these cannabinoids.
Yes. The packaging also will always have activities that basically like they pair with the product, and all of the information aside from like the analytics of the product come from actual product reviews. So before we launch the product, we have a slew of people try it and review it from daytime to nighttime. How daytime to nighttime is it? And that's where that scale comes from. And then also those activities that pair well with it. So, everybody is different, and we want to make sure that we're conveying like an average amount of information. Your average experience that will be provided by the product. So as opposed to, one person saying this made me feel this way, it's a number of people, and we kind of take an average of that. And then that's what we put on the package to make sure that we're guiding you in at least the right direction. And that's always a really fun process. But the thing is that a lot of people, either only see cannabis in one way or have only used it for one reason. And if we're helping you get more out of life with cannabis, we want to show you all the different ways you can use it to amplify your experience, whether it's from like falling asleep at night, or going for a hike and enjoying nature even more, or helping you get that boost of social energy, especially since we've all been quarantined for so long. CBG blend definitely helps you kind of be more outgoing.
It is a weird experience considering like going to a big show like MJ Biz and whatnot after isolating with my pets and family.
Are you going?
No, I'm waiting till the baby's immune system's a little beefier before I go to big stuff like that.
I totally understand that. I'm also not going. But it sounds like a lot of people are, and I'm excited for them to kind of get back into the community, I guess.
Yes, I miss that. I miss the community. I got to speak with Dave Tran and James Arconi from Fairchild about their party, and I was having like a little FOMO. So I'm gonna definitely live through other people's stories on that one.
I just saw David actually, and sounds like he's doing a whole lot with his time right now. So
it's awesome.
I'm sure next year is going to be really cool for him.
Well, I'll see you at MJ Biz next year.
All right.
So we were talking about R&D, and you mentioned it was really fun, and I agree. R&D is really fun with a trustworthy product, right? With Heylo, heck yeah. But it does take the patience to not rush a product to market. So I did want to know about what it kind of looks like for Heylo to take an idea all the way to the finish line of a product on a shelf. Like, how long does that process take, and why?
Well, yeah, like you said, R&D is fun, and we're kind of always experimenting around here. But first and foremost, the products have to align with our mission. So how can we help people get more out of life with this product? And so It depends on the product, how long the process will take. So the actual development of the product could be pretty fast, or it could take a really long time. And the part that's consistently taking a long time is that quality assurance part, where we, finish making the product and then we try it and, do the reviews align with the experience that we were looking for?
Mm-hmm.
And also, does it align with our mission? So we take a long time with that part. But new products often stem from either consumers reaching out to us and asking us to do something, or bud tenders even. And so that's one of the reasons why we launched our jam line, which is Heylo's concentrate that you can dab. So not a whole lot of CO2 extracted concentrates out there, and people have been asking for it. So once enough people asked, we finally decided to take the plunge.
How long has jam been out, and where can we find it in Washington right now?
Jam has been out for about 3 months now, or actually, sorry, 2 months.
What is time,
in August?
Right?
Yeah, I know. I just had to look at the date. And you can find it in Bellingham. Smoke and Crow has it.
Cool.
In Seattle, there's a ton of stores, the Reef and the Luxes. And you can also find it in Tacoma at Emerald Haze, Tacoma Renton area, and then in Spokane at the Cinders. So we launched with like a few partners that we knew wanted this product.
Smart.
Because not everybody is into CO2 extract, which I think is going to take some time. I think a lot more people are interested in it than people think. But CO2 is an incredible solvent. So a lot of people love hydrocarbon concentrates because of the flavor profile. And that's really because, first of all, hydrocarbons are really good at extracting the monoterpenes, those light aromatic terpenes, as well as THC. So it kind of makes a perfect mix for creating a dabbable extract.
Okay.
But they are missing some of the heavier notes. So if you think about perfume, when you make a perfume, there are 3 basically like categories of aromas that you want to mix together to make that like full perfume experience. And so there's like the top notes, the middle notes, and the bottom notes, something like that. And there's a similar kind of structure for terpenes and the flavor compounds as well. And so I always think of it like the hydrocarbons are able to extract mostly the top, those light notes, and the middle ones, but are missing a lot of the heavy ones. And so CO2 extracts all of that. And so we have a much more complex flavor that is similar to actual, like when you open the bag of flour. And so not only does it smell and taste closer to the plant, but also that interacts with your body in a way that guides your experience that's closer to the plant. So I think people will catch on, but we strategically launched with partners that had been asking for the concentrate. And it's doing really well. And we're launching blueberry next week. And it is so tasty.
I remember bud tending, and there was only one dabbable CO2. I think there came another one from Ravengrass a bit after that. And it's a niche market, but the people that want it, they want a lot of it because it's hard to find right now, but Heylo is going to change that.
Yep, exactly. So hit us up if you need it.
Yeah. Okay. So the big question I've just been dying to ask someone who actually is a science person about Delta 8 and this synthesizing cannabinoids. It is really cool to do chemistry on a plant that has been so separated from all of the tools that you need to really understand what makes it up. But from your perspective, as someone who understands chemistry of the cannabis plant, to a person who's been focused on these cool cannabinoids in their organic form for a really long time, and 3, someone who is always advocating for good policy in Washington. You're always there to make public comment. I'm watching on my little Zoom. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this proliferating cannabinoids from hemp, and what's the right way to honor these rare cannabinoids in their form? Yeah, just kind of like open table. Tell me your thoughts, Lo.
That's a big question and super, super hot topic right now. So first, with respect to, converting CBD, for example, so compounds from hemp into Delta-9 or Delta-8, there's multiple levels of issues at hand. So first and foremost, the issue of general consumers being able to purchase a product from, a grocery store or something that has Delta-8 in it, which they believe and everybody believes comes from a hemp product, because they do. They come from hemp based in CBD, and then these facilities are using harsh acids to convert CBD into these THC isomers. And I'm going to talk about what an isomer is. So
cool.
An isomer is when a compound has the same molecular formula. So think about H2O. Water is H2O. That's the molecular formula. So THC has a molecular formula, and Delta-9 is what the plant naturally produces. So it has the Delta-9, let's just call it a shape. And that molecule with the Delta-9 shape fits into your receptors in a certain way that gives you the euphoria and the high that's normally associated with cannabis. Okay. Delta-8 is the same compound, so the chemical formula is the same, but it has a different shape. And so with Delta-8, it fits into your receptors differently and gives you still a form of THC high, but it's the Delta-8 form. And so it's not the same as Delta-9, but you're still able to buy it from anywhere that will sell it because it's unregulated, because it's from hemp. So people are buying products that will get them high from hemp. So in the eyes of the federal government, that's a really big problem. And in my eyes, that's also a big problem because, one, there's no regulation around how it's made, no regulation around what it needs to be tested for example, heavy metals or even the residual solvents that are used. And then lastly, there's no regulation around dosing. So even when THC was first legalized, like let's say in California, people were producing chocolates or cookies that were 1,000 milligrams of Delta-9 THC. Yeah. And you could eat that whole cookie and be like, probably feeling like you needed to go to the hospital. And so people are having access to those quantities of THC from hemp and not necessarily having the same kind of guidance or precautions that they may have with regulated cannabis, because there are those guidelines with regulated cannabis. So there are incidences of higher incidences of hospitalizations because people aren't aware that they're going to get high, or maybe they are aware and they take too much. And so it's causing a whole slew of issues from the hemp side of things. On top of that, people are importing CBD isolate, for example, from China, let's say, into regulated markets like Washington, and then using these acids to convert CBD into Delta-9 THC. So what that's doing is it's cutting into the industry that we've spent years developing here, where cultivators are doing, everything they can to grow this plant within the rules and under the regulations and within this ecosystem of this industry that we're developing. And now people are shortcutting that and buying CBD for very cheap from outside of this country even. And that introduces more risk to the consumer because, again, you're not required to test. These solvents that you're using to convert CBD into Delta-9 are not on the list of required solvents to be tested for, because why would you use them to extract? You don't.
Yeah.
And so again, there's an added consumer safety risk there. And so those are like the biggest consumer safety risks.
And this is, so what I'm hearing is this is not just in unregulated markets now. Like um, the use of science for evil. That's all I can think of. It's just at the root of it. I mean, if we're going to be real, the use of science like against the plant is almost what it feels like is now permeating regulated markets.
Right. And for me, I have more concern about, the shortcut, going around the suppliers that we have partnered with for so long. And this is of more concern to the federal government and to like our community because of those risks of people getting high or dosing too much. With similar access happened to CBD, and it's also not regulated. But it's not. CBD is very, very low risk as a compound to administer to the human body. Very low risk. Not as low risk to pets, but to humans, it's not risky. Delta 8 is.
My mom like falls asleep from half a dropper of oil. She's a sweet little angel.
Wow. Well, there you go. She's kind of that makes it easy to know what she needs to go to sleep.
Everyone do be careful. I'm glad you mentioned that, Lo. If you're going to dose your dogs and your cat, like a droplet is what a cat needs. So that's not as widely known, but I don't necessarily have a problem with creating access to different cannabinoids. I don't really, that's not my issue. My issue is like, where is it coming from? Which should be applied to every product you're purchasing. Where is it coming from? How was it made? What is my intention for use, and how is this going to affect my body? And so Delta 8 creates a new experience with cannabis. I just don't think that, saying that Delta 8 is the same as Delta 9 or whatever, or having access to it at your grocery or at your gas station is necessarily like the best path forward. And I did want to talk about Delta 10 because, oh my gosh, the garbage trucks are here. I'm pretty sure my cat is trying to like break in one of these doors.
Well, I couldn't hear it on your end. I don't know if you could hear the garbage truck on my end.
Honestly, it sounded like someone was shuffling by.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about the
tell me about Delta 10.
So these isomers are naturally found in the plant in very, 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 very low concentrations.
Yeah, so that speaks to the experience, right? Like if we're amping up the Delta 8 and things just because it's the hot new item in the news, it is mutating the experience that the plant is trying to express.
Right. But if we follow Heylo's mission, which we did with the new workout plan, we had people try it, and it has really impacted people's lives, especially right now, in terms of the amount of energy it can give you and the focus. And those are two really, really important factors when you're trying to, get through the day or get all the things you need to get done, actually done in the middle of a pandemic. And so Delta 10, I wanted to point out, is actually from Delta 9 THC. We use a solvent-free process similar to how people make distillate.
Okay.
And we convert Delta 9 into Delta 10. And so it comes from 502 THC. We take it through CO2 extraction, and then we go through an extra step that will, using just temperature and pressure to convert Delta 9 into Delta 10. And we really took a long time in terms of that quality assurance to have a bunch of people try it and make sure, like, are you excited by this? So it's not about, Delta 8, which creates access for the general public to get high from a hemp derived product. That's what people are doing with Delta 8. They're saying you can get high. It's legal because it's from hemp.
Yeah.
I just, went on a pedestal talking about that. Right. But
no, it's exactly what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah. Delta 10 is like a new experience, and it is helping people get more out of their life, and it's super intentional. And it's surprising because most people still are not talking about it. And I'm like, forget Delta 8. That's like a inferior version of Delta 9. Delta 10 is truly like an incredibly interesting experience.
Cool. Another one I'm seeing pop up that I haven't actually done the due diligence to look at is THCO. And I'm not really sure why it's the next topic. So
THCO is like a psychedelic version of THC.
Okay.
And so people love that because, a lot of people love psychedelics. And it's interesting to have like a psychedelic experience from cannabis because cannabis isn't known to give you that type of experience.
Eat enough edibles, friends, and look at the
Amen
tiles
to that.
on the floor of the bathroom and you'll have a psychedelic experience.
I can absolutely attest to that. Often,
but actually don't
often unintentional.
Yeah. Don't try to do it, you guys.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Seriously, don't do it.
Just you're in Seattle. Just find some actual psychedelics.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's people looking for that experience with cannabis, and that compound was actually discovered in I think the 60s.
Okay.
When people were just experimenting. I mean, in chemistry, you really just kind of throw stuff together, see what happens.
So it is you with a test tube in a lab.
When you painted that picture, I was like, I could get behind that.
I would like that photo shoot to happen one day.
Yes. Okay. All right. I'll credit you when I put that on my Instagram. But so with that, you do need to use some interesting chemicals to create that chemical reaction and produce that product. So most people don't produce it because of what's required to make it. I actually have not seen it on the market ever.
No, I've just seen the topic beginning to like creep into all the Delta 8 spaces.
Yeah, because they're using, they're already using these harsh solvents. So why not add some more to the mix? And so, I'm eager to see, what happens, what other compounds develop, but Delta 10 has been a really interesting one for us to follow. And I think our goal, I would say for 2022 is to find the higher THCV cultivars and CBC cultivars, because there's still so much to explore with those that are naturally found in the plant. So we're excited, but that said, we'll never leave an opportunity to innovate behind. So hopefully there'll be more for us to uncover.
I am very lucky to have Heylo products in the state where I live, because I just trust you as a person, the brand and the mission that you've created with your team. And I am wondering if you have tips for people in other markets, what to look for in packaging to find like a safe vape product. If you're not lucky enough to find Heylo and just be like, just show me the line of Heylo, please. What do you look for in a product to make sure that you can trust new vape providers?
Packaging is a really great first step. Obviously, looking at it, seeing what information they provide you, because companies that are, doing right by the plant and trying to do right by this industry are putting as much information as they can, excuse me, out there. And a lot of it ends up on the packaging. So most states require you to put, what solvents were used to produce this. And how about pesticide information? That information is often required to be put on the packaging. But you can also go a step further and ask for test results. So you can go to the stores and often ask, does this have a test result that I can see to confirm all that information, make sure it doesn't have pesticides in it. But then asking the bud tenders, a lot of times people behind the counter are aware of like all the things that go on behind the scenes. And if you care enough to ask, they will gladly tell you as much information as they can about the company. And just like with any decision that you make, whether it's about buying clothes or your food, you can look into those things and see, who's behind the product, what are their values. Heylo's website and YouTube channels have a ton of information, but doing some Googling
Some
And
light
so
Googling.
some light Googling, but yeah, the packaging, and then also the concentration of the cannabinoids, which often is found on the packaging. You can tell, if it's a very high in THC, if it's over, 80%, it was probably produced via distillation. So that kind of is as far away from full spectrum as you can get. Whereas if it has lower quantities of THC or total cannabinoids and higher quantities of terpenes, oftentimes that does have more of a full spectrum experience. So also doing your own personal research about what you're looking for in cannabis products, and the experience is going to help you make a better decision.
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of these brands have websites. I don't think a lot of people realize that you can learn a lot just by Googling the name of a company.
Mm-hmm.
You did mention something really cool, your website. All the things that Heylo creates, my goodness, there are so many avenues of fun ways that you interact with the people that love Heylo products or just are interested in cannabis in their daily lives. So we've got, let me try to think of all of them. Pre-COVID, they were like really fun events. So I was like, I can't wait to go to one. And then, now we're being safe, which is good. But we've got coloring book pages. There's online workouts that you do with the community via, I don't think it's Zoom webinar. There's playlists. There's, I believe Hannibal Buress was in the mix for a minute there. Like,
yeah,
he is out there. So talk to me about it.
Hannibal produced the CBG blend playlist. He
loves
the CBG blend. Yeah. No, I'm so glad you brought that up. And it's again, back to our mission, which is to help everyone get more out of life. We love all the ways that cannabis can help us do that, help us get more out of our lives. And so why not show our community all the ways that we use it, all the ways that other people use it. And cannabis pairs so well with music, which is why we produce Spotify playlists that are curated for each product that we produce, from our AK-47 or CBG blend down to even our louder, even our lube has a playlist to really set the mood. And same thing with art and cannabis go so well together, which is why we do the coloring sheets. We just launched the Grape Ape coloring sheet. Nice.
And you can download those on the website.
Yep, you can download those on the website, and definitely send us a picture if you produce, when you're finished. We love seeing it. And often we pair those with different strains that maybe get you into the creative mood or, the mood of just listening to music. But even working out, there's different products for each different experience in life. Cannabis can pair with literally everything in life. And so we just want to engage with the community and enlighten people on how cannabis can be incorporated into your life. And it's not easy, but we love it and we have a whole lot of fun with it. And we love our community, which comes from all over the place, to bring cannabis consumers and non-cannabis consumers together in a way that's, different from what a lot of times the media portrays.
Yeah, it would be really nice if the two worlds, cannabis and non-cannabis worlds, could just mesh together already. And just exist. As like a new mom, it's really wild that I feel like I have to keep my mom world, which is my whole world, because it's just a part of who I am, like separate from the fact that I consume cannabis for, my own like personal wellness reasons. So Heylo is just the champion of doing a lot of extra stuff just to serve the community in those ways. And I'm always so thankful about it. There were like big women's events where you would have the ability to learn from like people like AC from Eden Labs, and keep more women coming into this industry and into STEM. So yeah, I'm just stoked to have gotten to spend time with you today, because I'm a big fan of what you do. Yeah.
It means a lot, and we're going to do it anyway, but it helps so much to know that people care. And we're really just thinking about the future of cannabis, not just right now, but the future. And if we're going to get the rest of the world to accept this plant and find ways to incorporate the benefits into their lives, we need to educate and we need to show them what that looks like. So we're just happy to be in a space to do that.
Yes, I'm happy too. And so that people in Washington are coming to visit might be able to know, like, are your products available all over the state? Are there any plans for expansion? And where can we find you and your business online?
Well, Heylo, which is spelled Heylo.
Yeah, if you haven't picked it up yet. Heylo. Yeah.
We love a good wordplay. HeyloCannabis.com is our website, and tons of information, not just about cannabis, but also, like you said, those coloring sheets and things. But there's a map to find any store near you that carries us. If your store doesn't carry us, let them know and let us know, and we'll make it happen. But you mentioned expansion. We're super excited to be launching in the Midwest next year. In
Cool.
Ohio, my home state.
Nice.
And I'm really excited to be creating access to Heylo in other states. So like I said, if it's not available near you, let us know. And maybe we can work something out, because we'd love to be in every state in this country.
It would make traveling state to state easier for me. So
yes,
I would like that too. Lo, thanks for connecting with me today. And thank you everybody for joining us in the Fresh Cut today with Lo from Heylo and me, Cara Whitstock, the culture editor at Ganjapreneur. You can watch the latest episodes of Fresh Cut on our Ganjapreneur YouTube channel and follow us on social media to know when the latest ones are coming out. Thanks for joining us today.